Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gift. In this video I'll be drafting the pattern of those beautiful dress. So the first video is the inspiration, while the second video is what I made. At the top of the paper I'm going to rule a straight line which is going to serve as my shoulder line or my starting line. I'll be drafting the front pattern first. Then I'm going to take my vertical measurement. From my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. From my shoulder to my under bust is 13 inches. Then from my shoulder to my waistline is 15 inches. Then from my waistline I'm going to come down by 8 inches. That is, from my waist to my hip line is 8 inches. Then I'm going to rule straight lines across the dots I just made. So the length of this paper is the full length of my dress. The length of this paper is actually short, so I'm just going to extend the length on my fabric while cutting, but I'm going to use the full length of this paper as the present length of my dress. From the center of the paper on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is going to give me 8 inches. Then I'm going to come down by 1 inch from that 8 inches as my shoulder slope. From the shoulder slope, I'm going to mark my round armhole measurement divided by 2, which should also give me 8 inches. So I'm going to mark the 8 inches. Then I'm going to connect the 8 inches to the shoulder slope on a straight line like this. Then this line is going to serve as the armhole line. So I'm going to extend the shoulder slope towards the neckline area like this also. Then I'm going to cover out the armhole line towards the other side of the paper like this. The straight line you can see is the that I marked my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 4 inches, and I marked from my bust point to the dress length. From the under bust line I went out by 1 inch on both sides of the dart line, so I extended the 1 inch to my waistline. So I went out by 1 inch on both sides of the dart line. Then from the waistline I came down by 4 inches on the dart line like this. Then I'm going to extend the 1 inch on both sides of the line to the 4 inches I just came down by. So I lost the clip of when I was taking the dart, so that's why the explanation is so long. But the straight line you are seeing is my dart line, and I came down by 4 inches from my waistline and I extended the dart to it like this. So on the upper part I'm going to extend the 1 inch also to the bust line like this. So this is what the dart is looking like. For me to get the midpoint of my armhole line, I'm going to divide the line into 2, which is going to give me 4 inches. Then I'm going to come in by half an inch from that 4 inches. Then on this part of the paper I'm going to mark my bust measurements divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. So I'm adding the seam allowance to the side of the main measurement. Then I'm going to connect that half an inch to the bust measurement on this line. Then I'm going to connect the upper part to the shoulder slope. From my bust point I'm going to go up by 2 inches. You can decide to go up by 2.5 inches or come down by 1.5 inch. It depends on how exposed you want your chest to be. So I'm going to rule a straight line across the dot I just marked. So I'm going to extend the dart to that new line like this. I will also go out by 1 inch on both sides of the dart line. Then I'm going to connect it to my bust point line like this. So I'm going to use this curved part of the ruler to make this part of the line curvy. Then I'm going to use my free hand for the other side. For the neckline, I'm going to extend this part of the dart to my bust point line. So you can decide to come down from the bust point line. It depends on how deep you want yours to be. So if you don't want the neckline to be widely open as mine, you should come out by 1.5 inch before you extend this part down. I hope you get me. So I'm going to extend the other side of the dart also to the to my bust measurements on this line. So this is what I have. Then I'm going to connect it to the shoulder slope. It's not necessary though, but I just want to do it. So this is what I have now. So on this point, I already have my bust measurements divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. So I'm going to check what I have there, then I'm going to replace it on this side because I'm going to cut that part out. So ensure you replace all the allowance you are going to lose to the darts. So on my waistline, I'm going to mark my waist measurements divided by 4. Then I'm going to check the allowance for the darts. I'm going to replace it. Then I'm going to add 2 inches seam allowance to it. Then on my hip line also, I'm going to mark my hip measurements divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. Then I'm going to connect all the dots together. So before I finish up the cutting, I'm going to cut this tie that we have on this side. So from my waistline, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inch. So I came down by 1.5 inch from my waistline. Then from my dart line, I'm going to go out by 1 inch. So I went out by 1 inch from my dart line. Then I'm going to connect both dots together like this. So I'm going to use this curved part of this ruler to connect the 2 points together like this. You can use your free hand, but just make sure the line is good. So I'm going to connect them together like this. Then I'm going to use a straight ruler to connect this side to the length of the paper. So this is what I have. I'm going to smooth in this part so it will not just be that sharp. So I want to split this part of the paper, so I'm going to be marking 2 inches in between them. So I already marked the first one, the second one, the third one. So I'm going to rule a straight line across all the marks, all the dots I made on the paper. Then I'm going to label them. So I have 4. I'm going to label it from 1 to 4. So you can use any labeling you want to, but just do something that you'll be able to identify it after you cut and split it. So I'm going to cut that part out from the paper. So we are done with the front pattern. So I just want to cut the shoulder out like this. This is not necessary though. So this is the full front pattern. So for this side, I'm going to split it like this. So we are going to spread it on our fabric while cutting. So this is everything for the front. Now we'll be working on the back pattern. We basically have almost all the lines we drew for the front pattern. So from my shoulder line to my bust point is 10 inches. From my bust point to my waistline is 15 inches. Then 8 inches from my waistline is my hip line. Then I added 2 inches zipper allowance to it. Now I'm going to be marking my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2, which is 4 inches on the bust line. I'm going to mark it on the waistline as well. Then I'm going to join the dots together on a straight line to my hip line. Note that I took the dart after my zipper line. You can see the zipper line there. The zipper allowance I added to this is 2 inches. So I'm going to label the lines, my bust point line, my waistline and my hip line. So on the dart line from my bust point line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, sorry, then I'm going to come down by 4 inches from my waistline. So I'm going to go out by half an inch on both sides of the line. So after going out by half an inch, I'm going to connect it like this to the 1 inch I came down by from my bust line. Then I'm going to connect it on the down part also to the 4 inches I came down by on my waistline. From my zipper allowance line, I'll start taking my measurements. Just marked my bust measurements divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. Here I'm marking my waist measurements divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. Then I added 1 inch for the dart intake also. So on my hip line, I'm going to mark my hip measurements divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. Then I'm going to connect all the dots together. Make sure you replace the dart measurement on your waistline. Mine is 1 inch and I added it to the measurement while I was taking it. So I've connected all the points together. From my waistline, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inch like this. Then from my dart line, I'm going to go out by 1 inch also. Then I'm going to connect the two dots together like this. So I'm going to do this one down on a straight line like this. I'm going to roll it down on a straight line. Then I'm going to connect it from that point to the one I marked after my waistline. So I'm going to be repeating the same thing we did for the front. So I'm going to be marking 2 inches interval in between them. Then I'm going to rule straight lines across all the dots I made. Then I'm going to label them. So I'm also going to have 4 for this. So I'm going to label it to 1, 2, 3, 4. For my bust point line, I'm also going to go up by 2 inches just like we did for the front. Then I'm going to rule a straight line across that dot. Then I'm going to extend my dart line to that new line like this. Then on both sides of the dart line, I'm going to go out by half an inch. Then I'm going to connect them back to my bust point line like this. So I'm going to curve this side of the neckline like this because I don't just want it to be straight. Then I'm going to curve this other side towards my bust measurements like this. On the zipper allowance line, I'm going to go out by half an inch on the waistline like this. Then I'm going to extend all the lines out so it will be more visible. The waistline, the bust point line and the hip line. So I'm connecting the half an inch towards the bust point line and the hip line like this. So I'm going to shift this from the sunlight. I didn't know it was affecting the view of the paper. Then I'm going to cut out the excess part of it. So after cutting out the excess part of the paper, this is what we have for the back pattern. So I went ahead to use my pattern to cut my fabric. I added 6 inches to the length of the center, and this is the back also. I added 6 inches to the length of the center. I added half an inch on all the sides. So this video will be continued in our next video. So stay tuned for the continuation of those videos. In the next video we'll be sewing this. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.